Hello everyone, welcome to the All Day Football Show. I'm your host, Jackson Kellogg, and today we're getting into Week 11 of my NFL Power Rankings. I know it's back-to-back Power Rankings, but that's because two videos that I uploaded Sunday, Boston Tea Party Podcast and Game Picks, both were recorded with no audio. That was a mistake on my part, so I ended up just taking them down. I will be truthful with my game picks. I did do pretty good though, so for when that video comes out, it'll still be going over what my picks from the previous week were. So anyways, let's get into Week 11 of my NFL Power Rankings. In number 32 spot, as always, until they win a game, the New York Jets, as they had a bye this week. They're going to be, I forget who they're playing the following week, but coming off of a loss to the Patriots. They almost won, but a loss is a loss. They are 0-9 on the season and on a trajectory to hit 0-16 on the year. At 31, I have the Jaguars. I almost had to move the Jaguars up in this one because they almost beat the Packers, as the Packers didn't play very well, but they did escape with the victory, as the Jaguars dropped down to yet another loss with their only win of the season coming from Week 1. So not a good outlook for the Jags, as they will probably be in the hunt with the Jets for the first overall pick. At number 30, the Washington football team almost narrowly came back against the Lions, but it did not happen, as the Lions were able to hold them off to finish the game with a 59-yard boot by Matt Prater. Washington still has some issues to get through. The offense runs through Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson, and when they try to force it to the other guys, it just doesn't work. J.D. McKissick keeps taking away from snaps from Antonio Gibson. Washington should move to a similar format as the Jags do, where James Robinson had 23 carries for over 100 yards for the Jags, and no other running back touched the ball. Give Antonio Gibson the ball. He's clearly the best back in that backfield. Let him work. And same thing with Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's clearly your best receiver. You're going to have to go get a receiver in the offseason, and you're going to be in a position to go get someone like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith in the draft. But Washington, they just have some issues to get through on both sides of the ball. At 29, Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are still in a position to take the division. They did have a bye this week, but with the Giants knocking off the Eagles are still at number 1, but I believe only by like a game or a game and a half, something like that. So the Cowboys aren't far off, and based off of how they almost lost to the Steelers, or they almost beat the Steelers, I should say, it definitely is a good outlook for them. It's something to build off of going forward. You can say, hey, we almost beat the only undefeated team left during the season. It's not much to say since a couple other teams almost did it, but it's a good building step. It's a good first step, so then you can carry that into future victories to go try and take the division. At 28, Cincinnati Bengals, they just got absolutely curb stomped by the Steelers. Joe Burrow could not carry the team. This team just fell flat on all sides of the ball. Didn't do very good. They're going to have to work on that going forward. With being in the back half of the season, the Bengals don't look like they're going to be able to get a late push going. Maybe they can next week, but based off of their performance against the Steelers, it wasn't even close. So Joe Burrow going to have to find some other ways to carry this team on his back. At 27, Denver Broncos. Similar to how the Steelers curb stomped the Bengals, Drew Lock and the Broncos just got old school footballed by John Gruden, because he just ran the ball and the defense got the job done. They intercepted Drew Lock 4 times, so very turnover prone day for the Broncos offensively, and they couldn't stop Josh Jacobs in the running game. Derek Carr didn't have to play very well, didn't even have to throw that much. Jacobs had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, so Broncos have to work on that offensively going forward. Drew Lock, I have a feeling they're still evaluating whether Drew Lock can be the future, and as of right now, he's been too inconsistent to judge, so they definitely have some issues on that front, and I think that's the big big thing to assess going forward for the rest of the season. The Eagles. Eagles. You just got absolutely beaten. You just got beat. It wasn't even a close game. The score was, you lost by 10 points to the New York Football Giants. How does that make you feel? As that pretty much almost solidifies you're most likely, if you win the division, are going to have a losing record. But that also puts you only about a half a game above everyone in the division. This division is just the worst in football. Honestly, I feel like the Giants are the best team on it in it right now, which is why I have them at number 25 after having a good win against the Eagles to put them in a position to possibly take the division. But this division is just bad. Between Dallas and Washington not being able to put games together, the Eagles keep making excuse after excuse. First, the excuse was that their roster was injured, and now they have a whole bunch of their offensive starters back, and they couldn't beat the Giants. They clearly couldn't. The offense fell flat, and the Giants took advantage. Bad performances all around. I honestly, at this point, I've bounced around between all the teams that I think are going to take the division, and I haven't hit the Giants yet, and at this point, I am going to give the Giants, I think they're the team that's building the best out of the rest of the teams in their division. Granted, their 3 wins are only against teams in their division, as they knocked off Washington twice, and then beat Philadelphia last week. They're building something. Daniel Jones is starting to get a little more consistent. He's not being as turnover prone as he has in the past, and the defense is starting to put itself together. Granted, it's against weaker opponents, but a win is a win in the NFL. At 24, we have the Carolina Panthers. You feel bad for Teddy Bridgewater because, he's worked through so much to try and get back on the field, and then he just had his other knee injured. So he got injured in the knee against the Buccaneers, and it was his opposite knee, so that dude's going to have serious issues when he hits his back half of his life. But the Panthers team as a whole did not play very well. The offense did the best they could to keep up with the Buccaneers. It just could not happen. Tampa Brady threw all over them, and the defense could not stop that triple-headed wide receiving core. And Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and AB. You can't put a huge amount of blame on the Panthers, though. They weren't expected to win. The team is a younger team and building, but I think Matt Rule is doing a great job there. I did not expect the Panthers to be as competitive as they would be this year, and they are with a significantly young defense. So they're definitely going to be a challenge in the next couple years in the NFC South. At 23, the Detroit Lions. How are the Lions 4-5? That just boggles my mind a little bit because I don't know how they are. Yes, they still suck, but they're putting together wins. They narrowly beat Washington, but like I just said, wins are a win. Matt Prater had a bomb of a kick with a 59-yard field goal. It's just the Lions season. They suck to start, put together a back half, and then they make the decision to not fire anybody. Patricia's probably gone after this season, which sucks being a Patriots fan, knowing that he's a former Pats defensive coordinator who did really well for us. But that's what happens in the NFL. It's ever-changing. At 22, we have the LA Chargers. In a battle of 5th overall pick versus 6th overall pick, Tua Tagovailoa versus Justin Herbert. In a game where both quarterbacks played well, the Chargers' defense could not hold up, and they were the one who took the L, as that has been the story of the Chargers season, as in a year where Justin Herbert wasn't expected to come in right away, and there were supposed to be other bright spots on the team, like their defense, Justin Herbert has been the best player on the team this season, in my opinion. For being a rookie and coming in and just absolutely demolishing teams like with his arm. He has a solid arm. He's making pro-level decisions. He's been a great player, but the Chargers haven't been able to help him out on any other fronts. So he's been stuck with the rest of his team, not helping him out. So hopefully, going down the next couple of years, they can get better support for him and they can play a better, more team-grounded game of football. At 21, the Chicago Bears. Nick Foles injured his back on Monday Night Football, but that was the least of... that offense looked terrible. It might be a savior for them, as now they can reassess the quarterback situation again and not get controversial over it, because, if Mitch Trubisky's healthy next week, they can throw him in, because when you look back, the Bears were 3-0 with Trubisky at the helm. They are now 5-5. So, not the best look for them right now. Is it 5-5? It's either 5-5 or 5-4. With bye weeks that come in and out, I don't remember what teams are where. But they have 5 wins. After starting 5-0, they've had 3 or 4 straight losses. So, not very good for them, because that defense hasn't been able to carry them. Dalvin Cook didn't play the greatest of games yesterday, but it was good enough to get them to a win, and the Bears just couldn't do anything on the offensive side of the ball. Allen Robinson's definitely leaving in the offseason. The Bears don't have a running back. They don't have any other receivers that aren't named Allen Robinson. This team is just garbage on all fronts, and that's why their record doesn't show what this team really is. At 20, the Houston Texans. You feel bad for Deshaun Watson, as being a star on this team. They just had a bye this week, but, they didn't have a bye this week. I'm an idiot. Who did they just... I have Deshaun Watson in fantasy. I forget who they just played. But you feel bad for Deshaun, because, the team... Bill O'Brien messed this team up badly. You look at how DeAndre Hopkins is thriving in Arizona. This team is going to have a massive restart. They're going to get rid of J.J. Watt in the offseason. Will Fuller's probably going to leave. They're going to have to do a huge rebuild on the defense. That great linebacking core of Whitney Merciless, Benardic McKinney, those guys are probably going to end up leaving. So it's a shame they wasted Deshaun Watson's rookie contract. As, this team, they're in a tough spot, and going forward, it's not going to look good for them, as they're having issues with management, and you hope that they can put it all back together. At 19, the Minnesota Vikings. Dalvin Cook is just throwing this team on his back and carrying them. He didn't have the greatest game on Monday night, but it was good enough to get a win. I don't think the Vikings are going to put together this magical second half to go make the playoffs, even with the third wildcard spot. I think they're too far behind for that to happen. But a team can hope, and that's what the Vikings are doing right now. 18, the Atlanta Falcons. They did not play a game this weekend. The Falcons, honestly, the team is this season is a throwaway. I think at this point you start playing some of your younger guys, see what you have in them, what you can build around, because even next year is probably going to suck for the Falcons, because they still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones on massive contracts, and they can't get rid of them because of the way they're structured. So it's not even like they can get rid of them and rebuild and have all this massive amounts of money. They really can't do that. So they're stuck in the situation they're in. Wouldn't be surprised if they go draft a quarterback in the first round this year to have him sit behind Matt Ryan for a year, then cut their losses after the end of next season. But Falcons, the last thing they should do is go on a late run this year, because it's not going to do them any favors. At 17, San Francisco 49ers. injuries have just belittled them this year. It's rough going for them. All the injuries have affected them. They lost by 10 to the Saints. Nick Mullins, he played okay, not good, but not terrible. But defense is slowly starting to get more players back from injuries. Their season just got thrown away by injuries, and they're doing the best they can to overcome it instead of whining about it like the Eagles. But it's the NFL. You got to have some depth on your team, and they have in my opinion, John Lynch should get GM of the year for considerably the amount of job that they've done putting a team together that can still be competitive with more than half of its starters out. I think this team could go blow out the Jets right now, any day of the week. But granted, Clemson probably could without Trevor Lawrence. So, in that aspect. But 49ers, good team, would be a lot better if injuries were not hampering them. 16, the Tennessee Titans. Boy, is this team overrated. Oh my goodness, it's not even funny. Because I think they're at 3 straight losses now. And it's just brutal. They are absolutely atrocious. And it's not even funny. Their best player on defense right now, their 2 best players on defense right now, Jeffrey Simmons, their defensive tackle, he's played pretty good in his second year, and Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler supposedly fell off a map, and now he's back. So, that's not good at all defensively. Vic Beasley was a terrible investment. Jadeveon Clowney has been a terrible investment. He hasn't been a big playmaker that he was supposed to be. He's getting paid for pressures. And pressures aren't all that you can do to get paid. I think he's at $12 or $15 million. I forget what the contract was. But Jadeveon Clowney's not going to make that much money on a contract again unless he can make the big plays. And the offense. Once you shut down Derrick Henry, they cannot do anything because you take away Ryan Tannehill is a play-action passer. He cannot just throw standard passes. He needs the play action to get his wide receivers open and have time. And when they can't do that, this team falls flat. And it's very clear that it's a very easy team to work around and figure out. And I doubt that they make it back to that AFC Championship game this year. Woo! Ha ha! So, I'll be honest. Being a Patriots fan, I thought they were going to get blown out by the Ravens. I really did. But then, the Patriots didn't beat the Ravens. The weather helped the Patriots beat the Ravens. Because, oh my gosh, that game was brutal. The Ravens, what did we learn from them? They don't know how to catch in the rain. Alright? Their center, Matt Skura, doesn't know how to snap in the rain. Lamar Jackson can't win the big games. Also, Lamar Jackson can't get a comeback victory. He's not clutch. But now looking at the Patriots side of this, the offense looked a little better. Cam Newton is still inaccurate, but that might partially have been the weather, as the weather wasn't very good. It was very windy, very rainy. Damian Harris is a stud. He took a majority of the carries and did very well with them, getting over 100 yards again. Jacoby Myers needs to be a wide receiver 1, as he was single-handedly taking over the receiving end of plays. And J.C. Jackson on the defense. He's good 90% of the time, and he has his little hiccups here and there. But the kid has 5 straight interceptions in games. 5 straight games with an interception. 6 on the year. And in 74 corners that were put on the Pro Bowl ballot, he was not one of them. Leads the league in interceptions. One of the highest graded cornerbacks by Pro Football Focus. And he's not on the Pro Bowl ballot. This is why the Pro Bowl is a sham. At 14, the LA Rams. They had a good win against the Seahawks. They made Russell Wilson cooking look like a joke. Gordon Ramsay would have laughed at that meal. As you could say, the Rams and their colors. That yellow ram horn could be like Gordon Ramsay's hair. But the Rams came off the bye pretty well. After that loss to the Dolphins, they showed up and said, "We're here to play." And the Seahawks have always had a tough time going against the Rams, and it just showed here, moreover, that the Rams are still a competitive team, and they could have some trap games here and there like the Dolphins, but they can bounce back with Sean McVay as their head coach because he's a good head coach. At 13, the Indianapolis Colts. It was a good win for them against the Titans. I didn't expect it. I did pick the Titans to win that game, but the Colts won it. I don't think the Colts are legit, though. I really don't. I need to see the Colts beat a top 10 opponent. If they can go beat a team that's got a winning record, that also has Super Bowl aspirations, and they beat them, then I'll think they're legit. The Titans are fake. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Browns. And I forget their third loss. They lost to the Jaguars in week 1. Granted, it's week 1, but they still lost to the Jaguars. But I mean, the Patriots lost to the Broncos. We don't really talk about that. But I want to see the Colts beat a big opponent. I don't know what their schedule is for the rest of the year, but they need to show that they can win a big game, because if they make the playoffs, they're not going to go very far. At 12, the Cleveland Browns. I remembered who the Texans played this week, and that was the Browns. That was just a brain fart on my part. The Browns, they played old school football and won. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt carried the ball down the Texans' atrocious defense and got the win. I think it's going to be a very interesting situation when they get to Baker Mayfield's contract talks, because Baker Mayfield has had, I'd say, he's had a high ceiling. I wouldn't say it's as high as someone like Josh Allen has. I think Josh Allen has the higher ceiling, Lamar Jackson too. But he's also had like a Jameis Winston type low floor. So Baker Mayfield's a playmaker, but sometimes he forces plays and makes bad decisions. So he's that happy medium. But if he can't figure out the decision-making aspect, but he still has to be a playmaker, because in order for him to get a contract extension, he's going to have to show that he could be successful without a power running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and I don't know if he would be able to do that. So that's going to be a very odd situation when it comes up. But for now, Browns are winning games, and it looks like they might make the playoffs because of their easy schedule. At number 11, the Buffalo Bills. That was an amazing catch by DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know how those DBs couldn't get a finger on that ball. I think they all went more the way, when you look at the freeze frame before the ball gets into D-Hop's hands, they were all trying to catch it. If it's a Hail Mary, you need to knock that ball down, and they did not do that. So DeAndre Hopkins, who had the bigger hands, bigger vertical, and was the tallest out of all of them, went up and got the ball. So ruined a pretty good game on Buffalo's front, as they went toe-to-toe with the Cardinals. The defense didn't play the greatest, but Josh Allen was able to keep up with them offensively, as the Cardinals' defense isn't the greatest. So the Bills are a competitive team. They're most likely going to win the AFC East, but the Dolphins are hot on their tail. And I mean, you notice I have the Dolphins ahead of the Bills right now, because the Dolphins are on the hotter streak. The Bills have been inconsistent the last couple games. They almost lose to the Patriots, but then they could go blow out Seattle, but then they lose on a walk-off by the Cardinals. So, they got to figure out their consistency as to where they are as a team and get it together before the playoffs start. At 10, I have the Cardinals. That was a beautiful catch by DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray played great. I think he's still their leading rusher on the year. He's doing his Kyler Murray things. If anything, I'd be willing to put Kyler Murray as the number one in the MVP conversation right now between him and I'd say maybe Dalvin Cook are the two that are leading it right now, because Russell Wilson has had a rough couple games. I think that just took him out of the number one spot. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't been consistent this season either, even though he's been pissed off Aaron Rodgers. But Cardinals are playing better than I think a lot of people expected them to this year. I'm sure adding DeAndre Hopkins to that offense helped. But the defense is slowly starting to get better as they're making more plays and they're getting the job done when it needs to be. Granted, they almost blew the game for the Cardinals by allowing that late touchdown by Stephon Diggs, but it's better than, say, like the Seahawks defense or the Cowboys, so there's always a brighter side. At number 9, the Dolphins. Dolphins are putting together some wins. This team looks great. If the season ended today, I think I'd give Brian Flores Coach of the Year, even over Mike Tomlin and the job he's done. But the Dolphins are playing great football right now. They're playing winning football, but they're going to have a tough finish of the schedule, and I think it might hamper them trying to finish out the season. I wouldn't be surprised if they finished around somewhere like 9-7, which would be a little detrimental to them, because that might keep them out of the playoff spot, as the AFC wildcard spots are going to get very competitive. Because you look at it, the Steelers are probably going to take the division, but that leaves the Browns and Ravens fighting for 2 wild cards. Chiefs are probably going to take their division, but the Raiders are there. Bills might take the AFC East, but then that leaves the Bills and the Dolphins and the Patriots. And then in the AFC South, whether it's Titans or Colts, the other one's fighting for the other wild card spot. So you've got like 6 teams there fighting for 3 wild card spots. And I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be able to come away with one because of the tough teams they face in the final stretch of their season. At number 8, the Las Vegas Raiders. They're winning games unconventionally, but I mean they're doing it very well. They're doing that thing where, you know, the league is moving towards more passing. John Gruden is very old school and does not change his ways, so he's sticking with his running the football. And when Derek Carr has to, he can throw the ball. But he doesn't have to right now because Josh Jacobs is tearing it up. Josh Jacobs has had a very quiet season, but when he has played well and made no mistakes, the Raiders have a very good team, and the defense is slowly starting to get better as the season goes on, despite the young secondary they have. At number 7, the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, welcome to the Madden curse, because you are starting to see it. The Ravens, they haven't been able to beat the tough opponents. They haven't been able to get comeback wins. Lamar Jackson looking a little overrated. I think we're starting to see the decline of the Ravens already. It might be just a hot take, and I could get a lot of crap for it. But hey, it's a lot better than some of the stuff people on the other media are saying. You know, if you don't learn how to play in weather, what are you doing? You can't just play in sunshine and rainbows all the time. I get it, more teams are moving more towards the closed ceiling, so you're in a dome, but you know, you play in the AFC. You're going to play teams like New England, Buffalo, Giants and Jets are up in the Northeast. Pittsburgh gets pretty cold. Even Cleveland too. And Cincinnati. So, you know, it is what it is. You got to learn how to play in weather. Those receivers could not catch a single ball. That one Willie Snead, his second touchdown, Willie Snead, he had to catch that with his whole body. If he tried to catch that with just his hands, he would have dropped it. And he knew it, which is why he caught it the way he did. Receivers are paid to catch the ball. Learn how to do it in bad temperatures. I mean, it's plain and simple. You're paid millions of dollars. Learn how to play in other conditions. At number 6, the Seattle Seahawks. What did I say? That the defense would be the downfall of Seattle? Well, would you look at that? It's not even just the defense. Russell Wilson if Russell Wilson has a bad game, the whole team goes down. And this team relies solely on Russell Wilson's play because the defense can't do anything. And if Russell Wilson has a bad game, you can just kiss the W goodbye. It's not good to have your team revolve around one player. If you look at a team like the Raiders, they have Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs as their two offensive guys. If Derek Carr goes out, they can just rely on Josh Jacobs for the game. If Josh Jacobs goes out, you throw in Jalen Richard because he's played well, and you get Derek Carr to throw some bombs to Hunter Renfrow, Nelson Aguilar, and Henry Ruggs. So why can't Seattle do the same thing? Granted, their running backs have been pretty injured, but then get consistently better at throwing the ball because they just got absolutely destroyed in play by the Rams. Cracking into the top 5, you got the Buccaneers at number 5. Blowout victory against the Panthers. The Buccaneers are just... The team is built to bully weak teams, but hey, they lost 2 games to the Saints. They lost both their divisional matchups to the Saints. That is not a good look for them, no matter what way you put it, because it's showing, yes, they beat the Packers, but the Packers this season, they've been inconsistent. You gotta look at the ways that they're doing it. They're blowing out teams that have weak defenses, but any defense that can challenge them, they're getting stopped. So they gotta fix up those defensive issues. And I know I have Bucs defense in fantasy. I watch them as they're not making enough plays to go get wins. They got me. They didn't get me the greatest points even in a blowout victory against the Panthers because they allowed 23 points and they didn't have very many plays. I think they got like 2 sacks and an interception. So that's not good. They gotta, if they want to be a top tier defense, they have to make those. They got to get those turnovers. They got to get those big plays, and right now they're not doing them against good teams. At number 4, the Packers. All the teams in the top from 4 on are in the same spots. Packers almost lost to the Jaguars, but they pulled through. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams is the best connection that they've had. Marquez Valdez-Scantling didn't play too bad of a game himself, had a career day, but the defense is an issue, as they almost lost to a guy named Jake Luton, which is really just Gardner Minshew 2.0, as he's a late day 3 quarterback. For the Jaguars, he's coming in and not playing too shabby as a starter. So if the Packers are having close victories against teams like the Jags, then there might be some issues when they go play a competitive team, and we've seen it. They got absolutely blown out by the Buccaneers. So yeah, they definitely have some issues they need to fix. At 3, the Steelers. Steelers, blowout victory against the Bengals. There's no better way to put it. They played good football. They beat an easy opponent, and they made it look easy. It's as simple as that. Ben Roethlisberger played well. Running game was doing great, and the defense was as spectacular as usual. They didn't get a ton of big plays, like they didn't intercept Joe Burrow, but they played well enough to get a good win. And there's nothing really negative to say about how they played against the Bengals. At number 2, the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees has broken ribs on both sides and a collapsed lung, which means Jameis Winston will be the starter for, I think it was at least the next 2 weeks. This is his time to show if he can be a successful quarterback again. We saw what happened with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 last year when Brees was out with his thumb. Can the same thing happen with Jameis Winston? Possibly. It'll come down to Jameis Winston can throw the ball deep better than Drew Brees can, but it also comes with some little dings for turnovers. I know the last time Jameis Winston played a season, he threw 30 interceptions, as well as over 30 touchdowns, and for 5,000 yards. So you got to take Jameis Winston with the good and the bad and hope that the good outweighs the bad. So we'll see how it goes for them. And at number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is just a beast. There's no other way to put it. They're still easily number 1 contender in the AFC. Probably going to win the AFC and go to the Super Bowl to play the Saints, but lose. Yeah, there's not much to say about the Chiefs. They're just playing great football. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. It would be greatly appreciated. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. And let's go root for those Patriots on Sunday to beat the Texans, even though they are 2.5-point underdogs. It's underdog season for the Patriots. Let's go steal those dog masks from the Eagles and be the real underdogs of the season.